That's the
Capacity's out.
Those two, Larry and Ryan, that's good.
Okay, so we should not have any guests representing this at all, because we did not send out, did we send out invites to everybody? To both services?
To this, yes, one at 6 and one at 6:30.
So just to be available by phone call or actual this way?
Right here, on here, they should be available to
So
you.
what we wanted to do was just have them available by phone call in case we want to speak with them, that's the text me matter.
Yes, okay. That's why.
Because we don't wanna have to have, we wanna have the board discussion, not necessarily with the salesmen from the both services.
Okay, do we want to wait, and then if we need to ask any questions, we will.
Yeah, I think that was the intention of the board. So to do it that way. Okay, how many invites are out right now?
2.
And we're both logging in at.
One's at 6 and one's at 6:30.
Oh, yeah, I mean,
Okay, so I
So we could ask questions, correct?
right, the concern is, it's not a concern, it's just that we wanna have all parties going like this, right, while we're trying to have our discussion also, so.
do you like to, we wait and then bring these guys?
Yeah, we'll bring them on.
Okay.
Let's.
Are y'all hearing that?
Let's start our meeting, and then, have hours off.
Okay.
And then, yes, and then we'll bring in, any invites that we like.
Yes, okay. We will bring y'all on whenever we're ready for questions. Okay.
So y'all just start about here, what, y'all do flags and all that?
So, Renee asked me
So can I still hear?
what time,
They should be able to.
Should we try?
Renee, so he was coming back from the knee doctor. He thought we were having a school board, I said, no, we're just gonna walk through our business stuff, and he said, what time, and I said, we started at 5, so, yeah, he's in love with it.
Oh.
At the surgery, his knee surgery, so he's on his way back. And he talked to me. Yes.
Yes, that'd be great.
It's simple, short.
Yeah.
That's it.
Nice, sweet and short.
Saw it when I was looking for the links, so they're on YouTube.
I'm just gonna ask him how far out he is. Cool. Oh, thank you.
Anybody else want a hand?
No, thank you. Yes, I do.
Y'all just want me to look at all my steps into it.
Yeah, thank you. Change my mind. I'll write something down, I'll be mad.
Conspiracy, holy cow.
Now you look up, I don't need
Yeah.
Everybody.
it. It's red, I'm
It's
sure.
hurting, isn't it?
Yeah, I could do it. I feel like I should.
Need some cups? Sure.
I got some.
Which
Sure.
is it?
There.
Oh.
I mean, it would take a really hot shower.
All right, good deal. I have 6:06. You can go ahead and call the order and drive for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Perfect. Agenda. Do we have any questions about the agenda? If not, we motion to approve the agenda.
I'd like to move number 2 to number 4.
Okay, well, we're already at number 2.
I'll make it.
Okay.
I'll second it.
All in favor? All right, public comments. Anybody here from public comments? No, perfect, we'll move. New business, it's actually old business. So I guess we do need to mark that as, Mr. Schneider, as old business.
Oh, okay, yes.
So that is an item that needs to be changed, because we had this discussion before. So obviously, I haven't heard back from Mr. Cervantes yet at this point. We're just waiting to see whether or not he's gonna be able to attend, based on, his appointments. talk about today is obviously our investment opportunities. As we're all aware, we've had two services that have presented to the board their information. One is Morton Capital Markets and one is UBS. And we're here today to talk about that and see if it's the board's pleasure to make a decision or collect more information or, what that looks like for us. So to start off, Mr. Snyder, with, right now we have Mr. Lundberg and Mr. Stoker, and there's somebody,
I believe that's
that's both of them.
I believe that's us on the third one.
Oh, that's us.
Is that, I don't see it.
Well, we're on the top, and it's Mr. Lundberg, Mr. Stoker, you just can't see it. Yeah, these are here. What's that?
I was just looking at stuff.
Oh, yeah, perfect. So that being said, now, what I do want to know is, so what is, if we're inviting people to our meeting, for what purpose right now? Because they have presented to the board.
Questions, anything that you may have for them in closing before you make a decision. So if you have questions for either investment firm.
So what is your opinion as a board of having, whether it's, Morton or UBS in attendance to our discussion regarding their services, while we're just having those discussions? In other words, should we have those discussions outside of the preview of each organization, formulate our questions and bring them in if needed?
I don't know if you can do that with open meetings. I just don't know if you can. I don't know.
Well, if it's not a matter of an open meeting, if they were scheduled on an invite.
Yes,
Right.
and they were.
Right, and the second company that we're reviewing. So why didn't we make their invite at the same time?
Because if you wanted questions for one and not the other, then you can ask them separately.
Right.
Yeah.
So we have to be able to formulate the question.
Right.
That's my question, is it doesn't seem fair if, we have one group on board the whole time and one not. Am I misreading
Oh, I see
this?
what you're saying.
You know what I mean? I'm trying to look at this just from a
Right, because
fair.
they're in the conversation right now, correct?
I'm not sure if they are. Shelley, are they still, we can still hear it?
Yeah, that's what, yeah, they're shooting it up. They can absolutely hear us.
I can ask the other one to get on and listen too.
That was what we were trying to avoid though.
Oh,
So we need to
So-
mute ourselves, though.
yeah.
Well, at this point, it sounds like there was just definitely some misunderstanding.
Yeah.
So what my intent was, is to have a conversation amongst the board. When we set the special meeting, was to have a conversation amongst the board. And then if we had additional information, then we reach out. Otherwise, we're having a conversation about organizations with the pressure of the organization staring at us the whole time.
So you're saying our original intent was just to have them on standby?
Yes, that's what. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Mr. Lumberg and Mr. Stoker, how are you guys today?
Oh, wait, let me turn.
No, hold on, I'm sorry.
All right, okay, yeah, we're getting this ironed out.
Can you guys hear us okay?
We can, thank you.
We can hear you as well, good deal. So I apologize, my name is Joe Das, I'm the president of the board, and I was not here at the last meeting, and I apologize about that, but I believe you met the other three. Our fifth member, Mr. Cervantes, he's out today. He had some surgery, so he's not available. There was a little bit of miscommunication. Today's special meeting is for the board to have a discussion regarding both the services you presented And then the second service, which was UBS, and have their information, kind of have a collaborative group amongst the board to have that discussion. And then if need, to have a period of time in which yourselves, and then UBS also be available during a certain block of time, just in the event we have questions. That being said, we're an open meeting. I'm not gonna ask or suggest that you have to leave. We're an open meeting, we can't do that. My question would be, just to ensure the integrity of the process, we don't have the other service on, and as a board, I think we feel that's not a fair representation of what we should be doing, right? Do you guys have any problem or any worry if we check you guys off, have our discussion, reach out to you within 15, 20 minutes, bring you back on so we can have questions for you specifically. And then at the end of that, then we would provide the same courtesy to the second organization. You guys have any concerns or worries about that? And again, I'm going to be very clear, we are an open meeting. So by law, we will not ask you to remove the period of short.
No, we're happy to do whatever works best for you guys, and we understand that this is an important part of being able to visit and open honestly, and we're happy to do that. Whatever makes life easier for you guys, we're happy to do. So if you'd like, we can jump off, and then if you need us to jump back on, we're happy to do that. If not, and you want us just to go home and have a nice night, we can do that too. Whatever works best for you guys.
We definitely do not want to waste y'all's time. Our intention is 6:15 right now. If you can give us 30 minutes of time to have a discussion, and sometime within that time, we will 100% reach out, bring you back on board with us.
Okay.
Just to see if we have any questions and if there's anything you want to throw at us at that time. If that's reasonable for you.
Absolutely. So do you want us just to plan on jumping back on the link at like 6:45, or do you want to have like Nicole call us if you need us? What's easiest?
What's the works later? I'll tell you what, for the sense of it, we will reach out to you because we may have you jump on even early. So
Okay.
let us, Mr. Snyder or Nicole will reach out to you at that time, and we'll just wait for you to jump back on.
Yes.
Okay. Nicole, are you okay? You got my cell phone number, right?
Yes, sir.
Awesome. Okay. Let me just click end here and I'll leave, and we'll let you guys visit. But thanks.
I really apologize ahead of time.
Yeah, nothing to apologize. It's good to see all of you, and it's nice to meet you. So we're looking forward to visiting.
Perfect. Thank you. We'll talk to you very, very soon here.
Alrighty. Bye now.
Thank you, sir. Bye-bye. Okay. So that being said, I think this is the more fair and honest way to do this. Because if we don't, but my worry is that we have unfair representation, right? We have one side of the conversation and not the other.
And I'm sorry about that. That was a miss on my part because I was misunderstanding that whole.
Right, yeah.
That whole texture, and I was looking back on where, and I now see where I missed it.
Right, yeah, so, the whole goal is really just to have our discussion. You guys inform me on, each of you were present. I have had a little bit of time to review their presentation online. And then, of course, I left it in my office, but I've read these multiple times now, both, of these presentations, the handouts that they give us. So I'm familiar with them. That being said, I think go to start. Anybody have any place they'd like to start?
What is the reason we need investments?
So I can understand, and we'll definitely reference Nicole and Mr. Schneider. Obviously, right now we have tens of millions of dollars, and our money is relatively just sitting. It's not doing anything for us. Even our encumbered funds. So an encumbered fund is, let's just say $50 or million at this point. Is that
It's,
a ballpark figure, Nicole? What we have encumbered? About 50 to 60 million. So right now, what that means is we have access to that money, but it is planned for projects.
It's already spoken for.
It's already spoken for. Well, right now, that money's just sitting there. When we go with a financial advisor, they can then take that money and put it to work for us while it is encumbered, right? And then when it is ready to be drawn, the financial institution that you're using, they create a draw schedule, and then they send that money to, let's say, it's called LASCO. LASCO says, okay, I need $10 million. They'll create that draw schedule, and they will move that money from our investment account, because it still stays liquid. And they're able to move that money and pay and handle the draw schedule, which takes that out of our hands also. But it allows us to make an earning on the money that we have sitting there that's doing nothing for us right now. And it's also more insured. Right now, FDIC is $250,000, right? So we have millions of dollars. God forbid something happens,
So right now, that's the reason why we have cash sweep right now.
right?
So at the end of the day, we're only carrying $1 million in our bank, and at night, at closing day, it goes into a cash sweep, so it's away from fraudulent activities, like it's going into investments already, which is called a cash sweep. And so we're only insured for 250,000, say that something gets hacked or something in the bank,
market
we're out
crashes, whatever.
750 already.
Right.
Because we
lose
can,
that
we're
money.
only insured up to 250, and we have $56 million in there.
Right, so
In one bank.
in one bank.
And
right.
so that's why we started the cash sweep, to pull that out, but we don't wanna have our stuff in just one bank, so we're gonna pull it out to put into a different
Right.
investment.
And it also puts it to work for us, right? So we have very limited investments opportunities by law with public money, right? There's a very narrow window of opportunities of things that we can invest in with public money. In other words, we can't just go out and throw it in the S&P and let's buy, $50 million worth of Tesla. We can't do that. So there's these very small windows of opportunities that the government allows us to operate in. But it becomes insured, and at least we're making something on
That, and
$50 million.
before we even started the cash sweep, we actually had an audit finding for
Yes.
unpledged collateral.
Unpledged, right.
And so that's why we had to, so that's why we had to, do the cash sweep. That's why we decided to do
Right.
the cash
You're
sweep,
saying-
so you pulled out that.
So our number one job as a board, right? The actual job of a school board is to be the fiduciary for the district. What does that mean? That means that we are responsible legally to ensure that the actions that we take with the district's money are in the best interest of the district, not ourselves, nobody else, but we can be held legally liable if we do not act as the fiduciary. That is our title. We are the district's fiduciary. So by us, a lot of findings suggests that we are not being very good stewards of the money, because God forbid something bad happens and we lose $50 million because we weren't handling the money correctly, we're liable. That comes to us. As board members, we can be held legally responsible for that. So that's our number one job. Outside of hiring the administrator and the CEO, our job is the fiduciary for taxpayer dollars, right?
And explain again how this doing it the cash sweep and then doing this way, how this is legal.
This is good, so what we can only invest in basically are government securities.
Yeah.
Some type of government securities, we are
Secured bonds.
government
Okay.
secured, and so that money goes into those and then it becomes secured.
Yeah, it's not like we're doing like
We're not gambling.
Johnson,
Or
Rogers,
or,
The
yeah.
black group
If you
investment, we're not doing any of that.
There's
No
a very narrow window of what we're allowed to do with
Right.
this money. And by us not doing anything with it, the auditor says, hey, you guys have all of this money that's just sitting here. You're responsible for it, and it's completely accessible to fraud, to the collapse of the market, to a host of things. And
So what happens to that money that, like on the rate of return? I guess
it goes
it's kind
back
of
into the funds.
Right.
So I have a spreadsheet, so like, usually it's like, lately it's been a little bit over 500,000 every month, so on the reports that I send y'all, every
that's
month
that
y'all
cash
have,
sweep.
there is a cash sweep and it has, every line item has a different fund and how much each fund made out of that 565. So I go in and deposit it into those funds, so I book it into those funds, and then again, that extra, at the end of the day, that extra 565 goes back into back into.
So if you look at the
Like,
stage
it's
sweep,
around-
or the stagecoach sweep that she gives us, you'll see maybe 20 line items. And those line items might range from $2,000 to $2 million or whatever. And then it'll say the amount of return, we might make $97 on this. Well, she has to take that $97 that was made on the 2,000 and reinvest that back in that same line item, right? And then the $2 million, we might make $60,000, and she has to go back and reinvest that into that same line item. And so she breaks it down by fund, so we see how much came out of the fund.
So we won't be doing the cash sweep, no more.
No, we will still have a cash sweep,
But it won't be that size.
but, right,
And so what usually, so we have operational money here, and then we have SB9 money here, and we have ad valorem over here. So all of our income sources, anytime we put that money out, has the interest that each one makes has to go back separately into those accounts. See what I mean? Like each pot of money, whatever interest it makes goes back to the back pot of money. It can't just go into the general fund. It's gotta go back to where it came from.
So how do, if it's going into our income and money it's already spoken for, and then we spend that money because it's already spoken for.
Yes.
The profit off of that, where does, like, we have to spend it on other projects, and like, you have
In that same
it has to be incumbent money all the time after that? Is that what it is?
here's exactly.
It comes out of different funds.
Yeah, so,
So with this, like that cash sweep, it's through all those funds, it gets distributed through all those funds. And the investments, it's only, because it's only coming from local revenue and SB9, it's only for buildings.
Right, because that's the FBI money.
Yes.
So like this right here, this 12,000 of the teacherage, that's how much we have in there, $98,000, right?
Mhm.
They sweep that, and then this over here, on that $98,000, this is our percentage, we earned $413.38 that day, right?
For the
Now,
month,
huh?
that's for the month.
Oh, I'm sorry, for the month,
Yes.
right. Now, that $413, just so I'm saying this correctly, you take that and reinvest it back into the 12,000 fund, the
Yes.
teacherage fund, right?
Yes, it goes
So
back
it
into-
has to stay within these funds. So these are the funds that we use. We sweep all of these funds. This is the balance of how much we sweep. There's the interest we're collecting, there's the amount. That's how much we made at the end of the month. On all of these, sweeping this amount at this percentage, we made $476,000.
And what are we projected to do with the,
So with
just depends
investments.
on how much, yeah.
so
Depends
are
on-
they gonna do, they're gonna basically do the same thing?
Yeah, so they gave us a spreadsheet in this is the first time that they did that, of like which surety bonds US Treasury bonds that they were gonna invest in, I gave them a dollar amount of $10 million. Like, we could do more, especially if we have a draw schedule. Did you not contact Clarence?
I just did.
Because we're not muted.
Clarence, you there? Oh,
He's muted, we're not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
there you are. Can you hear us now?
How about now?
We can. Hey, Clarence, so let me kind of give you an idea of where we're at. There was a little bit of a miscommunication. We have you available now. We had Morton available as well. What the board's gonna do is we're gonna have our discussion here first. Then we will reach out to you, we told Morton, that probably by 6:45, so another 15 minutes, that with any questions, we will reach out to them. We're gonna disconnect with them, and then we will, once we finish that piece, we will reach directly back out to you.
Cool.
Is that okay? So we
Yeah,
probably
that's fine.
expect, as I told Morton, it's an open meeting. I'm not gonna ask anybody to not be here. It's against the law for me to do so.
Right.
But that being said, what we are asking is, if it's okay, Mr. Snyder will shoot you a text. At that time, we'll have you log back in, and that way the board can have, a dialogue amongst itself, come up with some questions, and we can approach each of you individually at your time slot, if that's okay.
Yeah, you know me, I'm easy like Sunday morning.
Perfect.
You must not go to church.
Perfect.
Thank you, thanks Clarence, sorry about that.
All right,
just one of you all send me a text and I'll come back on.
It'll probably be around the time period of between 7 and 7, or 7:10, 7:15.
Sounds good to me, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Clarence.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.
Kids ready for church.
So all of this funds, do we have to put all of it in with these people at one time? Or
So
do we just do a portion, like a sample?
There's only a certain
Or-
amount, so there's only a certain amount. that we-
Yeah, so like all the funds that we have encumbered for the projects, that's like the first amount I would take in. So
Right.
like,
Close to 50 million.
yeah, I think
Yeah.
it has encumbrances on one of those pages.
Yeah,
And that's how, at first we weren't really seeing it that way, and then they were like, oh, we can do that, you know,
The
because,
SB9
you know, a lot of it was encumbered, and we're like, well, we can't touch that, it's encumbered, and they're
So-
like, not necessary.
Right now is 310. Excuse me. Encumbered is 51
And that's just in SB9.
Right, that's just SB9.
Yeah, and so, and
Right.
the local revenue, which is the 15,200 from the
Right.
local revenue, that's another 13 million,
Right.
it's sitting in there that's encumbered.
So in other words, yes, we would take all of our money and we would put it with one of these services.
Because those funds, that's all it's being used for. It's
Right.
Exactly.
Right, yes.
Yeah.
Our window's very narrow as far as what we can do. We definitely don't want to, you know, our mistake, honestly, was first not realizing that we can use encumbered money, right? We always thought if it was spoken for, that we couldn't move it, it just had to sit there. It may sit there a year because we may not draw on it. But think of the amount of interest we're losing on $50 million or 63 million, 64 million
Which is about 500,000 a
a
month.
month that we're losing. Not only losing it, but it's not protected.
Yeah.
And really, the loss of the return on investment, yeah, I mean, that's just poor money management on our part. The scary part is the fact that we have the possibility of losing it because we are not being responsible agents of the money and securing it through these investments. Right?
So on these security bonds, pretty safe, I guess.
Yes, yeah, they don't allow us, the government doesn't allow us to go
Yeah.
anything
So
that's
here's
not.
like the list that they presented to us, and UBS did the same thing. So there's all the treasury bills, there's the maturities, the yield on them, and then, like I said, that's why they have different maturities, that's just because we're gonna be drawing, we're gonna have a draw schedule. And so that's why they're in all those, but that's like an example of what it would look like.
They're
Is
extremely
it per
simple.
month or is that per year?
No, that's the month,
Okay.
Yeah,
I see
yeah.
that maturity month.
yeah.
And say we needed to pull their,
It's liquid,
Yeah, it's all liquid, yeah.
it's all liquid.
And so what-
If in the event we had a $10 million project that we said, oh no, we need $10 million, it's liquid.
But, and that's gonna help us out too, when we're having to pay, like, we know exactly how much we're gonna have to pay, because
Right.
RJ will get us a draw schedule of all the construction projects going on. He said they're gonna build this one, so we won't have to guess.
Yeah. And the only way that would be altered is if we have to, like, they're not where they said they were gonna be, that will be, you know, they won't get money drawn if they're not finished.
where it says coupon, is that the percentage?
You know what I mean?
I see the yield, but it's over here has another number,
Where
coupon.
is?
So that would be a question for the brokerage to ask,
Okay,
yeah.
Nicole, do you have another one?
Cause I think the coupon is like a monthly,
It's not in there.
I didn't see it.
like a payment, so to speak, is what the coupon.
Nicole, do you have another one of those charts?
Well,
I don't remember what their reasons were.
we just don't have them
Well, the
for,
rates are gonna be the same,
No,
cause they're US Treasury.
what they charge.
oh, this is.
Oh,
Do they charge on the
don't.
total amount
So
or do
they
they charge on
don't.
the
So
percentage?
here's the difference. And this is a piece that we have to think of. This is a one of the caveats, in my opinion, that's a big deal. Is, well, first, before we go any further, do you have the other ones from Morton, and then do you have, the UBS, because they're not in here?
No, I didn't, he didn't give me one, he gave y'all one, he didn't give me one.
He gave,
Yeah, when he came to present, he gave,
y'all.
yeah, he gave them.
It's not in here, but how would he know, he doesn't, you gave them
He
numbers,
gave
right?
us, I think it was a 6 million one or something.
I don't know. And then his presentation, he said it was identical, pretty much.
Well,
Yeah,
look, hold
Cause
on,
the
hold on.
rates are, they're all the same.
What I'm trying to figure out is, if Morton, you gave them numbers, right?
Mhm.
Right? Did you give UBS the numbers?
No,
So then so then they couldn't have
Compare
compared.
apples to apples.
Right.
One of those types of things.
yeah.
So that's what I was, because I was trying to look at, because I was trying to see this. So this
The
is
market
Morton.
is the market is the same, regardless of what company's doing it.
Well, I know,
Yeah.
but for transparency, you can't have an open meeting and compare two companies and not have.
Well, he
no-
didn't provide that to me, so.
Who did?
PBS, I don't have that. I don't have that booklet that you guys have.
The what?
The booklet that y'all have.
Clarence brought it with him and didn't
No,
provide
no,
it.
no, what I'm saying is.
Like they're working with 10
Morton
million.
was given ideas of $10 million.
Oh,
We told Morton, we give us numbers to $10 million. Did we tell UBS to give us
That's
numbers?
just a number out there. I mean, it's not like that's what we're doing. It was just, and so he did give us, he said something on that. There was like.
I think
Well,
$6
I-
million
yeah, I understand what
something
you're
like
saying.
that.
What I'm trying to
So
say
we
is
did
that-
talk to Clarence about money and like 10 million, and that's when Clarence said, why just 10 million? I think you need to do a lot more than that.
Yeah, but we're not talking like real numbers.
Yeah, we're talking, yeah, I don't know,
Just like
why this
comparison.
shouldn't be so confusing.
Yeah.
So if we, like an RFP, when you go out to an RFP, you tell
Oh, what you're looking at.
what you're looking at, right? You tell company A, I said numbers, company B, same numbers, company C, same numbers.
Yeah.
And then they present you, right?
Mhm.
Well, company A was Morton, we gave them a $10 million example. Company B was UBS, we give them a 10 million, say, present us something with a $10 million example.
I don't know.
It doesn't
No.
sound, and that's what Amy was asking, we don't have that
Well, because he
comparison.
didn't ask us how much. We could just make the presentation.
Was he in, did he get the invite last time?
But yes, they were both here.
No, I know they were here,
Uh-huh.
did get the invite, did we send it, because I know he was
For
here.
today,
No, last week, did,
last week,
No, that's not.
in March,
Yeah, he
in
was
March, are you sure? I know he was here.
they were,
But
both
he
of them
was-
have always been in both.
Hold on, let me finish. I know he was here. Morton got the official invite,
No, Clarence did too.
you sure?
Yes.
Because so far, it's been shown that he didn't. That he was here based on Mr. Schneider asking him to be here.
Is that not an
I
invite?
did invite him.
So, but how did, and then on Morton, how did,
He suggested UBS because he works with them.
We work with him.
They work with
no,
them.
I got that part.
I suggested Morton because they
You
work with
yeah,
the schools.
Right, so we didn't have
Yeah.
to send out any like email invites to them for records purposes. Here's what I did, ultimately what I'm trying to get at is this.
Yes, we did
It's
ask
just-
them for both of that, that's why they were here to present.
So my biggest worry is that we are doing one and the same to the other. So if we sent out like an email invite, hey, we're having a board meeting this date, this time, please be available to present this. Just like we would do an RFP, that we also sent it out to Morton and said, hey, Morton, or UBS, please be here this date, this time, this is the information we want. So one of them can't come back and go, well, this is word of mouth I'm getting, the other one was getting this information. So I just want to be sure.
Yeah, they both had.
Good deal, good deal. The only difference is they just didn't get this part, the 10 minutes, like you didn't tell.
I just put a number, 10 million, like, hey, what would you see? And I'm like, 10 million.
Right,
Yeah, but
And
we had
we
the same
told
conversation in
with
person with
Clarence.
Clarence.
Yes,
who did?
We did.
we both.
Okay, that's what I'm saying.
Yes.
Okay, so you
Yes.
told him.
He had, because he was the one that told me, wait, why just
Well,
10 million?
and that's what
And that's where.
no, that's what I'm trying to
Yes,
get at.
yes, there was.
The answer is yes.
Yes.
Perfect, yeah, no, that's good, as long as, I want to make sure we're
Because
all.
I was trying to figure
Kind
out,
of-
yeah, why you had
like-
it, how did it unfold?
So after that meeting, like, I feel like Clarence didn't follow up on like anything. Morton has, and they're still following up all the time. So I think just because he probably, because they have references, school references, he just kind of backed off. I haven't heard anything from UBS at all since the last meeting.
Well, I know UBS has reached out to Mr. Snyder. I know he's reached out to Amy Crawford, and I know he's reached out to myself. But it was on the fact that he hadn't received anything from the school district specifically, rather than word of mouth.
Yeah, I haven't sent Morton anything either.
All right, I just want to make sure
Yeah.
that's the same page. Good, then we're fine with that. We're fine there. So that being said, our funds, we have a very narrow window, right, of what we're allowed to do. We have to make sure that we are secure in our finances. We have to make sure that return on investment is great, but the thing we really have to watch is, are we secure in our money, right? Now, you were asking about fees and schedules and things like that. So what I've been able to ascertain, when I watched the video, and when I read, the biggest difference that stands out to me, and I brought it forward last meeting as well, is that Morton is a broker, okay? And I didn't really understand really what this meant until I started really kind of looking at it. Morton is a broker, UBS is a fiduciary. What does that mean? To the best of my understanding, and this would definitely be a question that I would want to ask each of the services today, to clarify. The best that I understand is this: a broker has the ability to make changes within your investments, and of course, they get paid based off of what those investments look like, and how they work, right? Without any legal responsibility to the person that they are investing for. A fiduciary has legal responsibility. It doesn't matter, they don't make the money based off of the transaction like that. They have to act by law in the best interest of the person that they are investing the money, even if that means that they make less money, right? A broker does not have to do that. A
So you're
broker,
saying the fiduciary is not allowed to make changes?
no, who?
They fall
No,
under
they
a
can
different
have-
category,
Well,
but they
yeah,
do have
yeah.
similar things as
Well, no, they're not even similar, they are very different, actually. If you look them up by definition of law, they are very different. A broker, so they're both going to invest your money, right? They're both. If you were to get a broker that was less than somebody, maybe wasn't the best person or whatever, they can base their funding. Now, even though we're in a narrow window because we're public money, they can base those investments based on their return, with how much money they're gonna make off of it, right?
The broker
A
can,
broker.
okay,
A fiduciary cannot.
okay.
A fiduciary has to go, man, if I invest over here, I can make money. It's not, it would be a bad investment for the client. So I have to invest over here because they're held legally responsible for it.
Okay.
So
That's,
they more,
they fall into the same category that we are. We are a fiduciary.
Okay.
We are legally obligated with legal ramifications. A broker has more leeway there, right? They're fee-based, if that makes sense.
like percent, they take a commission.
Commission-based, I guess.
And the
might be-
fiduciary would be more of a flat rate.
Right, they charge per their transaction now, and they have that legal obligation. Now, that stands out to me. I definitely am not comfortable enough with it to go, Morton or UBS and just have the greatest understanding of it. I think that's a conversation we need to have with them. At least that's my question, I don't ask them, because I wanna have a better understanding of it, because I only understand it based off of what I read, and when I looked it up and researched it, there's definitely a difference between the two. One has a high legal standard and one doesn't. Not that either one would have malintent, but it's something that to be concerned about, or something to be thoughtful of at least.
Just to be clear, you're saying that the UBS would have the higher legal.
Yes, yes, being a fiduciary, they have a higher legal bar,
Standard.
yes, higher legal standard. Now, what does that look like? I don't know. I don't know in a whole lot of things what that looks like. I just know, that's all I really know as far as that goes. And that's a question I would ask them, because I need to have an understanding of what that's about.
And are we gonna do this on a yearly basis or?
Well, and that's
5
the
years,
other,
10
well, that's
years,
the other
whatever?
thing. I don't
How
know.
do they do
Well,
those?
yeah, because on a yearly basis, if you're mature, like you're invested in all these bonds, because the maturity dates are staggered.
No. I mean, is it contractual or, I don't think either one of them require a contract, right?
No.
So we'll get
No,
into
no.
it 2 or 3 months later.
Because there's
we'll know.
nothing to compare, like when it comes to rates, like you're all investing in the same, right,
Right.
so there's no
So
no
basically, we're
RP.
comparing their fees.
Right,
Yeah.
right, yeah, fees and, yeah, absolutely, yeah, fees, commissions, responsiveness, all of those types of things. At least that's what I would think. Now, I did have, the one thing I kind of noticed, and when I watched it, and you guys were in attendance, so UBS, or excuse me, I know they both have different services, right? Or they both have different backgrounds, but their presentations were very similar, right? And the reason that is because there's such a narrow window of what they're allowed to do, right? I mean, you can only do so much. So it's not like either one of them went outlandish one direction or the other, because they all know that they can only operate within this narrow window. And when I read them, it's kind of what, I mean, some of this stuff's foreign to me. I mean, not some, 99% of it is foreign. But what do you guys get when you guys, I mean, I know you were here some of the time on the
I was
phone
on
and
the
then you were,
phone,
and then you were.
and then when I got here, they were done.
Oh, okay, and then you all were here, and I apologize, I wasn't, but what's your guys' take? That was just from what I've studied and noted, but, I don't know. What's your take?
For me, it's safety, like security of the money, because if the bottom fell out, it disappeared, then what? You know, but if it's security bonds, it's almost.
Yeah, it's safe, right? Real safe.
So what you're saying is you feel like we're safe either way we go with either company? Is that what you're saying?
I don't know about the companies, that I don't know, that I don't know.
That's what we're.
Don't trust me to invest your money.
Right? I agree.
A broker guy, you know, or fiduciary.
Right.
But that's like, basically what I'm thinking I need to do is compare their fees, rates, and I guess their communication, like who communicates the best.
Right.
Right? It's like, you're gonna be in contact with them,
Right.
be you, right?
And,
And then like the cash sweep, like that goes away for us mostly, it's just gonna be a smaller amount, like 250 or less, I guess.
Yeah, we'll still use the cash.
Yeah,
okay, it's not.
and that'd be
Yeah, cause we have $1 million, we'll keep like, cause I still have to do payroll and all that.
Yeah, that's what I'm
stuff, so
saying, is that where's that money gonna be?
So, yeah, we'll-
So really,
it'll just be smaller.
we'll be a,
Instead of
we'll always,
50, what?
yeah,
Like
we'll always have
every month
some.
you'll have 1 month, what, $1 million available and all kinds of thing?
Yeah, every day we have $1 million available, but I'm saying like the dividends that are paid out from the cash sweep. Instead of it being like 500,000, it'd probably be like 100,000.
Right,
You know,
Right.
But the return on the other side would be,
about,
Yeah, we'll make up for that,
Yeah.
right, because,
Yeah,
because now,
because we
because then
still
we're
get-
gonna be investing the encumbered money, which we're not right now, right? So we're gonna gain that, but lose partial of the stagecoach.
because you have to remember, we still get our monthly, tax distribution, and that's like 1.5 million just in oil and gas.
Right,
So, I mean, it's all staying still in there.
right.
And can I just put?
Oh, please do,
Let me
right.
put my opinion on this,
Absolutely.
because I've listened to
Because
all.
we're all
And I'm trying to listen instead of talk, which I usually just talk.
on.
I'm really trying to listen to your, Mr. Office notebook.
I didn't even laugh out loud.
So this is why I look, the school experience was huge for me on the other one. But then Clarence had an Alaska Scholarship Fund like several times larger than what we're talking about on the money. So it almost was like, he's done public investment before.
right,
And so there we go, experience how it puts it
the
back.
UPS Capital is the one that does the schooling.
No,
Morton is out of Salt Lake
Yeah,
City.
they're out of Salt Lake City, and they specialize in that with school investment. It's a very specialized market, and the reason why, say out of 90 districts in New Mexico, 10 have enough to even invest.
Right.
That's the problem.
Right.
It's not a huge market where we have a flood of people that can do this, you know what I mean? There's not a lot of people that do it. And, but anyway, and it is regulated by our state government, no matter who it is. It is still regulated by what they can do, how much they can do,
Right.
what the information they have to provide us, that's all regulated.
And,
Has anybody been able to talk to like Eunice and ask their opinion of them, or can you
The
do that?
business manager is fairly new, so she
Oh.
just knows how to book all this stuff, and she's already given me information
Which is, she's.
on how to book it and all that stuff, but like,
she's
and then their
happy with it all?
superintendent's brand new too, so I don't know that he.
you know, and
No, but has she been happy with the way they've been communicating, have they been fast responsive, all
No,
that stuff? 'Cause
yeah.
That's gonna be important.
And Morrilton is school, they've done schools, but then, and they're pretty large, I looked at their market. But UBS is the largest in the world, as far as money management, they're a juggernaut, even juggernaut compared to Morrilton, as far as, to me, it just comes back. What it comes down to me
Right.
is pretty much a dead heat, until I realize what UBS has done for Woolworth.
so,
It comes down to me, UBS has been phenomenal with Woolworth.
right, and I can speak I'll speak just from a basic experience as well. When I look at this, so what I thought was very interesting when I watched the presentations were that Morton obviously does a lot of school districts, 10 school districts. For face value, UBS, that's not what they deal in. However, even given that, their presentations were so close together. And what that tells me is that if you are well versed and if you're strong in what you're doing, you know how to invest and you know the laws, you know how to find the laws, and you can operate within those boundaries. If I remember correctly, when I looked at Morrilton, they have like an $8 million, isn't that what it is, their net worth or something of that nature? They're out of Salt, if I remember correctly, they're about $8 million, they are out of Salt Lake, which is here either in there, I actually love Utah, it's my favorite state. But that being said, they're definitely not the size of UBS, $415 million, $420 million of experience. I have to say, this is the one thing that really stands out to me, is the broker versus fiduciary. It sounds like they're gonna do about 24 transactions a year. They'll start off with 12 in January, they throw in another one a month. Starts off with about 24 transactions. I don't understand all of the the lingo. They even spoke about it in the meeting of talking about transition type. Have they given you any information when they were talking about these start off with 12 transactions, but will end up about 24? Did you understand that part? Because I didn't.
We wouldn't be here if we did.
That's a true story. That's a true story. You're absolutely right. And really, that's why we held this meeting, was just because there's so much money, guys. I mean, so now also.
And either way, our money's insured, going either.
Either way, it is insured, for sure. Now, the services offered, I think, are very comparable, if I understood what they're saying. They both handle draft schedules, they both handle all of that, right? Which is, I think, in any terms, is it gonna be beneficial to Polk, right? I mean, is that less tasks that you have to do? Is that right?
Less tasks with the residents, no.
No, I mean, with like the draw schedules and stuff, like they handle those, right?
We would still have to write the checks and do all that
That's
stuff,
what
but process,
we help with that.
it's the same thing, but it'd just be like a set amount.
Okay.
Because it's a schedule, and so they would tell us, this is how much you're gonna
Oh,
owe
so
every month.
Oh,
If
okay.
it's a draw schedule, it's telling you,
Like
we have like 25,
Some.
$500 million worth of stuff going out right now, but you're only gonna owe us 50,000 every month.
Right, okay.
Okay, well, that's easy, and they take it and put it applied to the, that's my understanding.
Yeah, no, that's what I was saying,
How
so
draw
they-
schedule works.
Yeah, that they both offer draw schedules, so I think a lot of those ancillary services are the same, if I understood it correctly.
And that's my thing, I definitely don't wanna make more for Nicole.
Oh,
However, we will do whichever way you guys want, we'll make it work.
Right.
With this office.
Well, absolutely.
She's amazing, so, so.
What's, I can't speak to Morton, outside of just we'll have to ask them some questions. As far as.
Yeah, please ask them about the fiduciary thing, because they
Oh.
fall under something else different.
Right, oh,
It's
yeah,
very similar to whatever you were talking about.
right, fiduciary versus a broker.
Yes,
Right,
this
okay.
is very similar.
Yeah, that's definitely, because when I look at it, I mean, I think it's
Because
black and white.
otherwise, they wouldn't have the business that they have, you know what I mean? Like, the schools wouldn't take that.
Well, no,
You know?
you're right, but I mean, it is, I mean.
Yeah, it's
if you-
just, it's
to say
very
that,
similar, but
it
it's
is
just.
8 million
different.
versus
Yeah.
400 million, so, I mean, there's definitely contrast to more business. I mean, if we're looking at that, I mean, yeah, I mean, I get it, but
And if y'all wanna do both of them, no, I'm.
You don't wanna do that.
I'm saying no, because I have to do the work.
Yeah, you don't wanna.
You're gonna have to give you a good salary for it.
Yeah, I was like, you don't wanna do that. Let me look at something here. What is your guys' take? You guys were there, you guys watched it. I wasn't there.
So one thing I question is the money difference. If I'm not mistaken, when you just said Morton is out of Utah, and it's a UBS like out of Switzerland or something?
They're-
Oh,
so
you,
they're
yes,
like-
he's in Albuquerque, but.
I mean,
They're
like
like office
like
in Albuquerque,
corporate,
but they're
corporate.
Switzerland based.
So like they have a larger base, they're international, right?
Right, yeah.
Morton's not,
Wait.
right?
True, yeah. no,
Oh,
So I
I
mean, would
think-
that be the discrepancy between, one company has 8 million and one has 400 million?
I don't necessarily just mean money, I just mean,
I mean, you said you deal with more money.
access to the,
Who would go under first?
no, like, in other words, who is the
Resources.
true resources, who's the true subject matter expert, who has the ability and the knowledge and the experience, and the fingers out there networking to know how these things work.
So right now, it tells me Morton knows like public money, right, school money, because they're dealing with cities, towns, and schools.
Right.
And UBS doesn't, or
So UBS,
We're gonna be
we're talking about,
like
the
their trial
difference
and
is,
error guy.
no, the difference is we're talking about an individual with UBS, right? So here's, just put it flat out there. I knew nothing about investments or nothing in anything like that really till I started with Woolworth. Woolworth, we have given them now all of our money. We used to have it separate. Because Clarence is the type of guy that at 8 o'clock at night you text, he answers the phone and like, hey, what's going on? And he'll tell you everything. He comes to your meetings, he gives you whole presentations anytime you need him. He's
Single point of contact.
Single point of contact and readily available. Now, when you talk about experience, you're not gonna have the UBS team working for you, right? You have Clarence, he is your financial guy. The guy watches it by the hour. As finance, as markets change, we're getting text messages. This is what's going on, market's here, I might have to move to this movie, let me know what you think. This is where I think it needs to go. That's the difference between, in my opinion, that and a broker. A broker takes your money, puts it there, and we'll talk to you in a quarter.
And so,
No, and they don't do that, cause I
Well,
talked
I-
to Eunice and they don't do that.
Well, so, but that's what a broker does though.
a different.
So tell me what did they do?
Well, you have to ask them,
Well, tell me what
like, cause I haven't worked with them, you guys have worked with UBS, I have not.
Well, I'm
So
asking
you have
what is
personal experience, I haven't used them at all
Right.
or anything.
what is
My
it?
deal is with Eunice, they have good customer relation and they haven't had a problem and they do call and email her a lot to see if there's this and there's that going on. And so they do work with her, but it's not a quarterly thing.
Well,
She has
no, I mean, I know there's
contacts with them.
So of course there will
Yeah.
be that, but how often are they moving or adjusting money?
That, I don't know, cause I didn't ask that question.
Because I know brokers.
And I don't wanna be getting text messages at 8 PM, cause my job finishes at 1.
Well,
Like, I'm just saying, like, I'm not doing
Yeah,
that.
well, I'm not saying that, I'm saying if you had a question for him.
Oh, yeah, like, I have his.
That's-
It's available, it's a whole different kind of investment, you're not gonna get the 8 PM thing because it's not like that investment over there, it's set already.
Right.
It's a government security with a yield of like 5% over a year or 2 years, it's already set there, the government guarantees it. That's why we're able to do that.
Right.
The other things are just liquid market and free market that's working, and so there's so many moving parts. But that's where,
Leave it
so,
for the
yeah,
professionals.
so I've been on Woolworth almost 11 years. And there have been several investment companies come to go, and there's a reason why he's the one. I'm just saying, there's a reason why we've gone on 11 years.
Well, and then there's a reason why Morton is not doing business with them, because they do it with schools
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
municipalities, so.
Yeah, this tells me that they're well versed in what we would more or less need.
Right.
You know, because that's the market they're chasing currently, that 20
Mhm.
New Mexico entities alone. So they apparently know the New Mexico rule, but I've still gotta hear fees and all those things.
Right. So why don't we, outside of the only question I really have is the fiduciary versus broker. That's where I stand. That's where I really wanna know.
And then you would have like fee questions, right? Like,
Yeah,
what's
well,
your
I think
fees?
that kind of falls into that, because a fiduciary will tell us how they charge, and a broker is gonna tell us
Oh,
how they charge.
yeah, they're
That's kind of
charging
the whole thing.
Their structure.
What do you think, what are your questions?
I don't know the questions to ask right now.
Okay,
Same.
Right.
Like, same couple of questions you had.
When it don't sound like there's a whole lot to it, it's not like we're gonna be at a
Yeah.
high risk market, you know?
potentially, right,
Yeah.
right, yeah, we just have to do something around for sure. So, why don't we do
So
this?
steady is comfortable.
Yeah,
You know?
why don't we, ask, what time did we say? We call Morgan?
Around 6:45?
6:45 is what you told Morton.
Sure, let's call Morgan. Let's see, let's see if
Yeah,
you're.
let's get into the log back in. Or do you want us to log back in?
Yeah,
Oh,
great, so we can talk to him. Figure it out. This is an area that I really have never had enough money that I worry about investing too much,
Same.
you know?
I just buy another car.
Right.
You know, I-
And then
Take
don't
care
know
of
what
that
I'm, and then don't know what I'm gonna do with it. Take care of that.
That's beyond the first world.
It's an addiction. It's an addiction, Mrs.
I
Hart.
tried to sell that little truck on Saturday too.
Oh, you did?
Some guy was looking at it.
Coming in here like 3 different.
He came in that day, well, we're standing outside, and he goes, somebody said, he knows that guy. No, guy, the guy that owns that truck, I was like, man, you probably robbed a car, go out for $3 grand. He goes, well, I was like, yeah, it's got like 400,000 miles. I was like, well, he just had it painted by some dude in units. Really? Looks good, you did a good job.
That you?
No.
I was trying to get some random.
He just
dude
made
to
like,
pocket it.
he just made about 95% of that up. The only 5% is it was my truck. I was the only.
That's the only real fact.
Did he ever go inside and talk to you? It was a taller guy.
Yes,
He did?
3 different people did. Did you say more than one?
No.
You put a for sale sign on your truck, just so you know.
Somebody
I was
So-
trying to get it scattered.
I had a friend of mine that played in church on one time. in the ER, and she talked to my daughter about the code in my truck. Literally went in, took pictures of my truck, finally took pictures and posted on like the Auto Trader and all this stuff. Going, it's like my brand new the truck I have right now, going through a divorce, $10,000.
Oh,
I was
no.
fishing in Utah, blew me up.
It was like a cheap price.
I mean,
there it is.
picture, yeah. Oh, I'm gonna strangle somebody.
Oh, that's funny.
Mr. Lumberg, how are you, sir?
So good. Got a little power nap in right there. I've never felt better.
We are so sorry, and we should be more prepared, but I'm gonna be honest, we're out of our depth here. So, what I mean by that is we understand our responsibility, but we don't understand a lot of verbiage, we don't understand, those things. Mr. Stoker, you're on too as well, right?
Yep, just got on. Sorry about
No, perfect. I was just explaining to Mr. Lumberg that, thank you for your time. We apologize for the inconvenience in dragging this out. But as a board, we're in over our head a little bit here, right? We're out of our wheelhouse. I think we understand school policy and rules and things of that nature, but when we're talking about investments, that's not our area of expertise. So we have had a lot of questions, a lot of discussion amongst ourselves, and realized that we couldn't answer any of them on our own. So that being said, I have a couple of questions for sure. And we've looked at your presentations. We know you guys represent school districts, and several of them throughout the state of New Mexico. So that definitely is a leg up there. Tell us a little bit about the difference between the title broker versus the title fiduciary.
Okay, wonderful. Yeah, that's a great question. And first of all, we love that you're asking questions. We call that job security. So we are happy to answer and help in any way we can. For us, just so the question of a broker versus we call it either an investment advisor, investment manager. We are regulated by 2 different organizations. Both are by the United States government. Our regulating board is FINRA, and investment managers are with the SEC. And we have regulations. We have to do a lot of continuing ed. We have to do many of the same things that the managed side has to do as well. Ours is with FINRA, theirs is with the SEC. We have what's called a suitability requirement, which is our equivalent of the fiduciary requirement. And that is that anything that we show you has to be in accordance with your best interest. And so a little bit different verbiage. One, on a fiduciary, you pay for that manager. They'll have a contract, and they will, that's where you'll negotiate. You'll end up paying that fee to have them work for you. And that's part of the Investment Advisor Act of like 1940, I believe. And it was just called the fiduciary responsibility. Back in 2020, FINRA continued to further regulate what we do. And they added what's called the suitability requirement, which is what we're under. and that is that we show you only things that are in your best interest. Now, the thing that's the most interesting to us, that what we see, having done this for about 25 years, and especially that because we specialize in public entities, and particularly in New Mexico public entities, we've been doing this down in New Mexico for a long time. The state statutes mandate what you can and cannot buy. And so there's only about a handful of things, about 5 or 6 different things that you can do as investments. And it regulates the time frame. It regulates as far as the parameters. We're very, very familiar with that. That's something that if we don't follow those things, then the auditor comes in and writes that up. So not only do we have a suitability requirement through our regulatory organization, but we also have the state statutes that we have to follow. And so that's where we fall under of, and we need to do the very best job for you guys that we can. For Ryan and I, this is our career, and we've built this over 25 years, and we don't plan on going anywhere. And so what's very interesting, and you guys could probably attest to this as well, is your reputation, especially amongst public entities, be it school districts. It wouldn't take much if we did something wrong for word to spread, and we'd be out of business. And so it matters a tremendous amount to us what you do and what you do and what you don't do. So for instance, if you came and you said, hey, we'd like to buy, we want to jump in the market. We want to buy cryptocurrency. We want to do this. We want to do that. We would say, well, that sounds great, but no, we're not going to sell that for you. And we're going to tell you straight up that that's going to get you written up by your auditor, and you don't want to do that. And we're not going to do that, because it matters more to us to keep you safe and out of trouble than it does to buy something that's illegal. And so that's, I guess, kind of in a nutshell, a little bit about suitability and about fiduciary. Ryan, do you have anything that you want to add to that or clarify?
Yeah, so I guess the only thing that I would add that I've run across over all the many years is, it's kind of confusing to me, and maybe when you speak with the other gentleman, they can explain it a little better. But to me, in my mind, if we're buying securities, say treasuries or agencies, plain vanilla type securities that are the only ones that we're allowed to buy, per state statute, is it in your best interest as a fiduciary to actually charge you a management fee to hold those securities for a period of time? For example, in a broker relationship, let's say we buy a 5-year treasury, plain vanilla, simple type security. We make a commission, when we sell it to you guys, and then there's nothing left there. That's all. All the interest comes to you guys. The principal comes to you guys. Nothing else for that 5 years comes to us or anything. We're transaction based right up front. But in a managed account, you're going to pay a management fee on that every month for the next 5 years. It'd be one thing if you were buying corporate bonds, where you have to worry about credit and you have to worry about ratings and can it go under and things of that sort, but that's not allowed by state statute. And so to us, whether it's fiduciary or whether it's suitability, having those parameters from the state really in our mind makes it why we've chosen to go the broker model, because it doesn't make sense to charge you over and over and over and over again for the same security that we would sell and charge one time.
Perfect. And that's a great piece of information. Where our next question was going to go is just about that. Tell us how your service, how do you make money? What are the fees to us? Is it a negotiated contract type thing, or is it just flat commission? How does that work?
That's a great question. It depends on the product. And so, for instance, and we're happy to be very transparent about this, predominantly what our other school districts buy are either going to be, well, first of all, usually they use our money market, which is made up of government agencies and securities. This is a liquid money market investment. We love this. You guys would absolutely love this. It's paying over 4%. It's liquid. It's a great parking spot for cash. That money market fund is managed by a professional manager with RBC, and they buy and trade different U.S. government securities every day. And you could put,
I'm sorry, what, RBC?
that's just one of our money market funds that we use, but that's the predominant one that we use here in New Mexico. It's got government agencies and treasuries in it. That fund has what's called an expense ratio. The fund sets that up. And what that does is, let's say that the total return, the gross return on that money market fund, let's say it's like 435 or 430. They take like 10 or 15 basis points off the top and give everybody at like a 415 or 410. And then that part that they take off the top is what pays them, and I say them, the fund company, to buy and sell and trade. And then they pay us a trailer, and they call that, we become part of their distribution arm. And so that's how we make money on that. Now, the great thing about the money market is it's a great parking spot. You can, it's liquid any day. You can use it as much as you want or as little as you want, but that's how that instrument works. Another really common one that a lot of our school districts love is our brokered CD program. These are CDs that we sell. We have access to hundreds and hundreds of different banks across the United States that need deposits. And our school districts love these because they can buy them and everything is FDIC insured. And what happens on a brokered CD, that specific bank, whether it's Wells Fargo or Bank of America, whoever, all the different community banks, you name it, they pay us a selling concession to sell their CD for them. So this is a way that you have these community banks that want to raise money, but they don't want to go and have a sales force. And so what they want to do is they want to put that out there to the market and allow different brokers to go and find people who have money and find people who need deposits. And then we just bring them together. So the bank pays us a selling concession. So again, nothing out of pocket would come to the city of Jal. You guys would never see a bill from us or a fee. Everything is just basically taken off the top is the easiest way, or that issuer pays us directly to sell that for them. So
the thing about those CDs too is that those entire deals are set up by the bank themselves. They set the terms of what interest rate they're willing to pay. They set the selling concession. It's in our best interest to find the CDs with the highest rates for you guys, because we want a long-term relationship that is transaction-based over and over and over, because you're happy with what we're doing. A CD matures, we want you to still be happy with us. We're going to go out and find the highest paying CD that we possibly can. We don't have any control over what those rates are. Everything about the brokered CDs is set by the actual bank that's issuing that CD.
Right. So let me ask you this. And I'm just going to use numbers just because I don't know anything about rates or any of that stuff. Let's say you're going to buy a brokered CD from Wells Fargo for $50,000, and that rate is at 4.5%. I have no idea if that's even remotely correct. I'm just using it a number.
Sure.
Do you guys have that obligation to come to us and say, okay, Wells Fargo is offering us a 4.5, or do you guys have the ability to go, we're going to sell it for 4%, and then that 0.5% then becomes property of like your commission or your fee? And in other words, is there a transparency that we know that the rate we're buying is the rate that was offered by the bank? Or do you guys, do companies have the ability to sell it for less?
Not on a new issue. On a new issue, everything is sold at par, meaning we buy a $250,000 CD. That's the typical amount that we buy. We won't ever buy more than that, but we typically will buy 250s. And so when a brokered CD is purchased, it costs you $250,000. If we were to change the interest rate or anything, that would mean we would either be selling the bond at a premium or a discount, which would change the amount of money that you're paying to buy that CD. So what we do on all of our CDs is we keep it what's called par, meaning it's going to cost you $250,000. You're going to know the interest rate. In this example, it's 4.5%, and at maturity, you're going to get $250,000 back. We've got some clients that like us to go out and search the secondary market and scour for it. But for the most part, most of our customers just like new issue CDs. Everything is set. We can't adjust the price. We can't adjust the interest rate. We can't adjust anything on it. And what we'll normally do is if we're going to try, if there's a need for a CD, we'll go out and we'll find the highest three paying ones for like a 3-year, a 4-year, a 5-year, whatever fits in the ladder. And we're going to show you to give you an idea of what the entire market looks like. Obviously, we're going to recommend that you take the highest one, but if for some reason you'd rather have XYZ Bank versus ABC Bank, that's completely, that's the customizable part of it. Is we'll show you what we think is the best. And the reason that we'll show you the best is because the only way that we ever make any money is if we're showing you the best that makes sense that you guys actually want to buy. So we're showing the best rates, but we're always having conversations with Nicole. Here's where it would fit in the ladder. You're buying FDIC insurance, take the highest yield that you can. Doesn't matter what the bank is, the government's backing it. And so no, we don't change the price on broker CDs one penny.
I was just going to say one of the nice things that the state does too is they ask you to have, whenever you do an investment, that it needs to be equivalent to the corresponding U.S. Treasury, and so there is a benchmark out there that you're supposed to always to be able to get to that. So we're aware of that. Again, it kind of boils back to, for us, we're not like kind of a one-stop here you never see us. Like, you'll see us often, and for us it's we want to make you happy, and we want to make you as much money as possible safely so that everybody sleeps really, really well at night. And then also that you have the liquidity. And so for us, this isn't just like, hey, we're here for a one-time thing. We want to work with you guys for 20 years, for, you know what I mean? Like, this is who we are and what we want to do. So for us, it's a long game, and we're institutional. So it's different than being on the retail side.
Right. So there's no type of investment that would not necessarily be transparent, or that there could be a buyback of a point or a half of a point of the percent that would fall to commission based. In other words, does that make sense? I know this is a horrible representation of what I'm trying to say, but
No, that's
for somebody buying a car, you go to a finance dealer, you go and you buy a car, and you're approved for a 2.9% interest. Finance manager says, okay, yeah, great job, you're approved for 3.9. They don't tell you you're approved for 2.9 because they buy that point back, and that's where they make all their money. So is there any type of, and I'm not comparing you to used car sales, I promise. That's not what I'm saying. It's, my mind is simple. It just works in that way. Is there any transaction that is possible with your service that you can adjust that rate and actually increase your commission, for instance?
So here's how I would answer that question. Is there are certain securities out there that trade on the secondary market, whether it's CDs, whether it's agencies or treasuries, where we are responsible for setting our own commission. We just kind of have an internal number that this is what we do. Like, if it's a short treasury bill, we work for just a couple of basis points. The longer you go out, it changes. But the key thing is we never want to be, we never want to be surprised by getting a phone call from Nicole saying, hey, I just had another broker call me and offer me 4%, but you're only offering me 3.5%. That would be devastating to us. That would be the worst thing ever. And so for us, our commissions that we're setting on those particular secondaries are right within the line that they're absolutely not egregious, because we don't want to stick out like a sore thumb. Otherwise, that could cost us the relationship.
Yes, sir, absolutely.
Some of that too, that would maybe help you guys, make you feel even a little bit better too. Like I was saying with the treasuries, because I know that was the one thing that we were talking about. You can go on to any service and find out what the equivalent treasury is. So
Right.
when they list it, whether, back in the day when they listed it in the paper, right, the Wall Street Journal, like now you go on to CNBC, you go to Bloomberg or whatever, they're going to list all the treasury rates. One of the things that we talked about was that seemed to be kind of the thing that Nicole felt the most comfortable with, is a treasury, backed by 100% by the U.S. government. It's very transparent of, hey, I can go check and see this is what where it's at versus where, we are able to buy it at. Now, what they posted, it's interesting though, when with treasuries, I mean, the market moves like up and down, constantly throughout the day. So there is some movement, but where it starts and where it ends is two different things. To be frankly honest with you, it's been very volatile because of, like, in the last little bit, because of the tariffs, right? Everybody is very panicky and a little bit worried of, like, what do these tariffs mean, and how are they really going to do it, or are we just kind of bluffing? You know what I mean? So there's a little bit of volatility because of that. At different times in the market, there's volatility, and you'll have, some swings and stuff. Not huge swings. I mean, huge swings would be financial crisis, COVID, which we all hope we never see again, right? But that's the nice part about, like, what we're talking about with the treasury, is it's very transparent, that you can see where it's at. For us, if we buy, once we buy a bond, we have to service it. We have to make sure all the payments and stuff. So that's why, I mean, we do have to make some money on it, and our wives, and kids want to eat, so we do have to do something. But,
I get it.
So do we, Larry. So do we, Eddie.
But for the most part, like I said, I think that, I mean, we're happy to even to talk about that and be like, hey, here's kind of where we're at. I mean, we've done that with some. If that would make you guys feel more comfortable, we could give you a scale and say, hey, look, this is where we're going to work at, and this is appropriate. What happens is we look at how much work is involved, and then how much time is that taking us, and what is it that we have to go hunt down and find for you. Does that make sense? So
Yeah.
on some clients, like they need a lot. They need a lot of analytics. They need a lot of this. They use a lot of our time. And so we're not able to kind of go and do something else. And so it's like, all right, well, we got to make a little bit more here, because hour for hour, we're putting in a lot more time. In your guys' situation, and first of all, I mean, we want to make sure that you guys feel very comfortable and you understand what you're doing. And this is what we do. We sit next to Nicole and all of you and just say, here's your options. Here's what we like. What do you tell us how are you feeling? Does this make you feel good? Does this one cause you anxiety? How are you feeling about that? So we're going to give advice. We're going to give recommendations, but at the end of the day, that's up to you guys what you want to do.
Yes.
But ultimately, we're in, like I said, we just do this for the long haul. So that's kind of where we're at. I don't know if that helps.
Can I add something into that?
Sure.
Just to add into that, whether we buy something new issue or secondary, whatever rate that we quote to you guys, that's the rate that's going to be paid out. So whether we buy a secondary bond like a treasury, we buy from the street at 4.10, and we turn around and offer it to you guys at a 4.08. The 4.08 is, you're going to get that no matter what. That's the rate. When we quote a rate, that's the rate you're buying, regardless. And that's only going to be on the secondaries. I just had a brain cramp when I lost my train of thought where I was going with that. But, yeah. Okay. So
does that transparency piece on the secondary market, will we know what you're buying it at and what it's being sold to us at? Or is that something that is an internal decision and we just know what we're buying it at?
It's more of an internal decision. You know what you're buying at, but we know that you can go right out to the market and compare where it closed for the day. But there's volatility throughout the day. So let me give you an example for today. The 5-year treasury just last Friday was trading at 4.11%. Today it hit as low as 3.85%. And then towards the end of the day, it closed at 3.93%. Huge swings just in a matter of a couple of days. So we can find a bond in the morning, and whether it's up or down, you know, we put in a couple basis points mark. We'll call it a market commission. It could be trading much higher than that at the end of the day. When you see a printed number at the end of the day, it could be much lower. But what we're always trying to do is, no matter what it's trading at, we're trying to help provide the guidance of, it might not be a good time because this economic news is coming out. Let's maybe give it a day and see if we can get it at a little bit higher level. I did remember what I was going to say is, so you're getting the interest rate that is quoted to you, no matter what. You're never going to get a bill from us. You're not going to get a monthly bill, a quarterly bill, nothing. When we do a transaction, whether it's 1 basis point on a treasury or 2 or 3, you know, depending on whatever it calculates out at, you know what you're going to get. You're never going to be surprised from us with a bill.
Perfect. Those were my questions. You guys.
No,
Nothing?
he was asking, or you asked him about.
Pretty much the same thing, right?
He gave out what he said he was gonna pay.
Right, okay.
The speech, gonna do it. I have it right written.
Right in front of you. Mrs. Art? No? Mr. Stalker? No? Mr. Snyder?
You covered it.
No? Nicole? You good? Perfect. Gentlemen, we thank you so much. Our intent is to have this discussion tonight. We are missing one board member. Depending on how the rest of our discussion goes, we may make the decision this evening. That's why we're having a special meeting, was really informational, so we can speak to the gentlemen that actually know what they're talking about, because we sure as heck don't. So, we definitely.
That's what we're here
Perfect.
for.
Well, we appreciate your time and definitely your patience and understanding, for giving us that little bit of time. And Mr. Snyder and Nicole will be back visiting with you as well at some point, for sure.
Wonderful. Well, yeah, we sure appreciate spending some time with you, and thanks for allowing us to share. And we're happy to, if something else kind of comes up, we're happy to jump on again, whatever we can do to help.
Perfect.
Whatever you
Thank
need.
you,
All right.
guys.
Have a great night, everyone.
Thank you. You guys too. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
They didn't see you waiting last meeting.
All right.
Let's take a just.
Yeah, 5-minute recess.
Central patterns is right.
Yeah, take a 5-minute recess real quick. That was good information.
Yeah.
That was too
So
much
there's no
information.
decision on it, it's just information.
Well, no, I mean, we absolutely can. I mean, it'll just depend on what we all think about. I really wish Renee was gonna be here. But we'll have to.
Hard to get the whole family together.
Big deal to you.
You can't get cookies anymore.
Aww.
She literally said she was gonna make the chocolate chip cookies one night.
I'll
I asked him.
Did I give you a date?
Jim already asked Clarence, so we'll see how long it takes him to get back in.
Okay, yeah, perfect. Yeah, so our hopefully we can tonight. I mean, it's some crazy reason we
It's not just, and then so like,
We're talking fiscal year, right?
whenever, you decide what company you're gonna use, the dollar amount, do I have to go to out every time you want to change something? Or a different market, like,
Well, so that's a great question, so I don't
because then
know
we
how
wouldn't
that.
get anything done.
Right,
like,
how
what's
was that?
I know,
Like, how much money?
Okay, so here's what I do know, so whenever we are really talking, so I think by law, we have to make those decisions. I don't think that we're allowed to make or let you or
no, I think
allowed.
they'll have to, but I think what we'll do is get like choose.
For sure.
And then UBS, even though it's been trying to do yes.
No,
I mean, RBC's who we already use bond attorneys.
Well,
I
that's-
bet they know about this too.
Well, that's what I'm saying, we already, well, that's why when we said RBC, I was like,
I think we already use RBC, so we will just ask them.
right, so I really think, to answer your question, I don't think, I think we have to make that decision. I don't think it's a choice of whether or
Just
not.
the initial amount of how much to invest.
So, yeah, and yes, that.
She can lay out what's available.
Right, and then let's say all of a sudden there's another $2 million. I think that has to come back to the board to make that decision again. I just think that would probably be a repeated, action or item on every month's agenda from this point, once we start doing this. Because we're always gonna have that money
Because
coming in.
usually like, I wanna say like in January, February, when we get like the huge amount, because it's the closing of the year. So I
Right.
think that would be like a good time to reevaluate.
Right, and I guess we could kind of see how.
Yeah, because other than that, we still have our cash flow
I was
going
gonna
on
say.
with Wells Fargo, so it's not like we're losing money, because
Right.
it's being swept every night.
Right, so I think we'll just kind of see how
And
it
then
falls
we
and
can-
how often it needs to be on the agenda.
And like I said, we can consult with RBC because they're already our bonding attorneys anyway.
Right.
And so, and we've got Art Melendres, we've got people that.
Right, we have no one to know that,
Yeah.
I was confused when you mentioned that, so I was like, hold on a minute, I didn't think you were gonna. Where'd he go?
Are you there, Clarence?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, there you are. We
I
can't
was
see
just
you.
sending, I was just sending Brian a text to let him know I was on.
Oh, yeah,
And I just got it.
Okay.
there,
Here I am.
oh, there you are,
There you go.
good
Hope you
evening, sir.
can see
We can,
Part of you.
we can just see up your nose, really, there you go.
There we go. Good thing I don't have the cold.
Yeah, no boogies noted. It's literally my job, I live with boogers all day long, so. Just letting you know, his nasal turbinates look fine. That being said, thank you for your patience, sir, we appreciate you, it's taking us a little bit longer. I'll tell you the same thing that we spoke with Morton just a few minutes ago. The reason we're doing it this way, sir, is, I think we all, the group of us here understand school law for the most part. We understand our policy procedure, our role as school board members. However, when we get into this piece, we're in over our heads, right? It's out of our wheelhouse. We have a decent amount of money that we're responsible for, and we want to make sure that we're handling it effectively and appropriately and responsibly. That's where we're at, so that's why you're here. Couple of questions from us, and I'm gonna start, if that's okay, just because that's where we kind of started last time. Tell us a little bit about, one of our topics of discussion has been the difference between a broker or investment manager and a fiduciary. If you wouldn't mind giving us your explanation to that.
Yeah, I mean, the easiest explanation is the fiduciary is going to sit on the same side of the table as the client. The fiduciary rule was essentially enacted because, frankly, there are some complexity with financial instruments. And with that complexity also exists a very large opportunity for conflict of interest. And along the way, and you all know this, what is legal is not always right. And given the fact that some clients need an extra level of protection and care, the Fiduciary Act was established, and that rule essentially says that anyone operating as a financial advisor in a fiduciary capacity has to always act in the best interests of their clients to the point that even if it brings monetary harm to the financial advisor. And essentially, if you look at most charitable and philanthropic type of arrangements, the investment manager usually will act in a fiduciary capacity, which gives trustees an additional blanket of assurance that their best interests are being met. And it puts the advisor on the same side of the table as as the client. I think that that's pretty clear. How does it sound to you all?
Sounds reasonable. Is there a difference in, there's been some new terms brought our direction, like a suitability requirement in FINRA,
Yeah.
and then of course the SEC. So where does a fiduciary fall into those
So
categories?
a fiduciary stands above that. A suitability standard essentially asks the question, is it suitable? But they don't ask the question, is it right, or does it fall in the client's best interest? So, I mean, the suitability standard is really a lesser regulatory measure. And the simple requirement is that brokers recommend investments that they believe is suitable, but not necessarily whether or not they would be the best for the investment for the investor. And that's pretty key distinction when it comes to comparing an agent essentially to a fiduciary.
So are you?
I think it froze.
No,
Oh.
Did I freeze?
No, you're good.
No, I'm just in mid-pause.
When you talk about, when you said the word agent, that, we haven't heard that term used, agent. Is an agent, does that fall into the broker side of it, or?
Yeah, it does. I mean, broker, agent, financial advisor. I mean, agent and broker is pretty synonymous.
Oh, okay. I didn't know, I'm trying to look at from the legal.
But yeah, and I'm sorry for introducing yet another buzzword into the conversation, but we'll just leave it as,
We're confused enough.
Yeah, we're already confused.
right? And the hour is late.
Tell us about fees. So, as a fiduciary through UBS.
Yep.
What does that look like, on our end as far as fees and commissions and things of that nature?
Yeah, so there's not going to be any commissions. It's going to be a flat annual fee, and it'll be assessed monthly. I'm thinking, and again, we bandied around a lot of different numbers, but I'm in the neighborhood of 20 basis points, which is 0.2% on the corpus. And essentially that's going to be the cost. So there's not going to be any hidden fees, any hidden costs, any transactions. You're paying a flat fee, and that again, I think, kind of ties my priorities in with yours, because obviously I want your account to grow, because if I'm taking a percentage of assets, then that fee's going to grow if your account grows. So I tend to look at it like this way, and again, not to shoot stones. I mean, I think that there's ample opportunity for the brokerage arrangement as well. However, you tend to always be suspect of a broker's recommendations towards the end of the month. The brokerage arrangement works really well until it doesn't, till you run into the law of unintended consequences when they sell something that maybe y'all didn't understand, which was suitable, but maybe for one or a number of reasons, maybe it's not liquid, maybe it's beyond a maturity date. You all are going to be on the hook for making the determination whether or not to buy or not buy with a broker. With fiduciary standpoint, I can buy and trade the account really as much as it makes sense to, with the entire object of improving your capital position to the best of my ability. So I'm not limited by the amount of trades I can do. I can do one trade, I can do 1,000 trades. That fee's not going to change. With a brokerage arrangement, they're going to sell you a position. They're going to enact a transaction by position. And, and it turns into a gray area because you can bury a lot of commission in an agency trade or a broker trade. Now I'm going to tell you there is a difference between agency and broker. An agency will sell out of off of an inventory for profit, and a broker will trade for a commission. And within the commission framework, both of those exists. Now, I don't mean to muddy the water, but what I can tell you is at the end of the day, if I am a broker, my job is to sell you things and make a commission doing it. As a fiduciary, my job is to manage and to pool a fee. I mean, there's nothing wrong with getting paid. We're not working for charitable organizations or nonprofits. But I do think at the end of the day, given the fact that you need an extra level of expertise by your own admission, you're kind of swimming in deep water right now, you probably would make sense to have the person working for you sitting on the same side of the table as you are and being pretty upfront with their fees and their expenses from the get-go.
Okay. So what does and I'm sure I'm gonna mess this up. A 5-year treasury, right? Let's say we decide to buy a 5-year treasury.
Right.
For I don't know, we'll just call $250,000 because that's a good number,
Okay.
I guess.
Okay.
How does that work for your fees and so on and so forth? What does that look like?
Well, the thing is let's say, let me take your example and expand that out a bit. Let's say we're
Okay.
managing 30, 40, $50 million, and I buy a 5-year treasury. It really matters not. You're going to get best execution on that treasury. There's not going to be commission taken. So essentially what happens is there's a fee taken on the amount. If it's 10 million bucks, it's going to be 20 basis points of that $10 million, which is what, 20 grand. If it's 100, it'll be $200,000. The individual trades along the way, there's not going to be any commissions being charged or any handling fees or anything else. You're paying for that on your monthly fee that we've agreed to prior to even getting into business. Does that make sense?
It does. I think it does. Ish.
Ish,
So,
yeah.
Okay,
So in
so
other
let me
words,
explain both ways.
If we pay 100,000 or 10,000, he's still making the same
so
The 20.
you, sir,
off the original.
would be collecting 0.2% off of our initial investment. If we came to you and said, UBS, we're gonna give you $10 million.
Right.
We want you to work this investment. You work that investment based on that 0.2% of that 10 million.
Yeah, but it's 0.002%.
Oh,
Yeah, it's 0.2
Right.
of 1%.
I was thinking for a minute that I was in the wrong business. I was like, man, I gotta get into clearance.
No, that'd be great. I mean, if you want to pay that fee, I'm not going to argue with you. But I'll tell you, no, 20 basis points is 20% of 1% or 0.2%.
Right, okay, so that would be the fee that you would charge
Yeah.
to manage the entire portfolio.
Correct.
So there's no additional commissions when sold, when reached maturity year, and none of that stuff. You just, that's where you are paid off of the entire investment.
Corpus,
Yeah.
Short answer, yes. Now, I'm going to throw something else in there. If you've got like pure cash, right, uninvested cash, and I do this for another large organization in town that some of you might have some experience with me managing. That organization, we've got north of $30 million. That it's a pretty complex portfolio. We've got an investment account. We have a cash account. The cash account is the brokerage account, but it's in money market, so you're not even being charged a fee on that. So where it makes sense to put you guys in a brokerage account, where if you have, I don't know, you want to keep $5 million in a money market because our money markets have a higher prevailing yield than what you get at banks, then you know what, you're going to get that for free. So there are advantages of working with somebody who can do both. But for the sake of this argument, if we're talking about managing a pool of fixed income bonds, we're going to do that for 20 basis points, all in. And that's going to be your total cost of investment. That's not going to be any surprises. So it doesn't matter how much we trade the account. You're going to pay the same amount irrespective of the activity.
Okay, and I'm only going off my notes here, guys, so please.
Yep.
Is this a monthly fee, right?
Yeah, so it's an annual fee, but it's assessed monthly. So
Okay, so
there's
it's
going to be there's going to be a draw taken out every month, and essentially what they do is they take the balance of the past 3 months and they take an average, and then they charge off the average balance.
Okay. What about, what's the name? What was it? Secondary? So is there ever a point in time in which we purchase something, you give us a percentage rate at what we're purchasing, but that percentage rate you sell to us at a different percentage rate so you can make
No,
fund-
that's how a broker charges you commission. Okay,
Right.
so so I'm going to use round numbers. Okay, so this is not indicative of the current market, but I think it makes it easier to explain. So say, for example, I'm a broker. I buy a bond off the street at 5%, but I'll sell it to you so I'm buying it at my cost is I'm buying the bond and it's a 5% yield, but I'm going to sell it to you at a 4.55 yield. Okay, that difference of that 5 basis points is what I'm getting paid. And it can be substantial if the bond is a relatively large issue bond. Now with treasuries, the spreads are a lot tighter than that, but that's how the commission process works, is they will take a percentage of yield off of the bond, because if they're selling it to you if they're buying it at 95 cents on the dollar and then selling it to you at 100 cents on the dollar, there is I hate to use this, but there is an inverse relationship between price and yield. So the higher the price, the lower the yield will be. So if I buy a bond and I mark it up or down, depending on whether or not I'm selling it or buying it, there's going to be a difference in the yield that you get versus the yield that I get. When we buy bonds on the fiduciary, you're getting best execution. You're getting what you're getting off the street. So
is that a trend? Is that rate transparent to us?
oh yeah, it's going to be readily transparent because you're going to see it on your statements.
Okay. Even if it's in the secondary market?
Okay, secondary, primary market, I mean, you're just muddying the water, because essentially what we do is we're a $903 billion organization. We have one of the largest trading desks on the planet. So execution that we get on our desk is substantially more efficient than smaller players. So working with us on a fiduciary standpoint, you're getting best market execution. And you're going to see that because every time we buy or sell something, you're going to get a confirmation and you're going to see exactly what we paid for it and exactly what yields you're getting. And you'll see that there's zero differential between the two. Whether or not is the difference between do you all know the difference between primary and secondary market?
I just heard the term about 20 minutes ago. I have no
Okay.
idea.
Yeah, so it's a buzzword. Okay, you buy a new bond from the issuer, that's called the primary market. You buy a bond out in the market from another dealer, it's called the secondary market. So every bond essentially, if you're not buying it directly from the US Treasury or a US government agency or the issuer, you're buying it on the secondary market. So there's no mystery there. It's just where you buy the bond. It's the difference between, I don't know, buying a Ford truck from Ford itself versus going on Craigslist and buying it off of somebody off of Craigslist. You know, and if you do that, buyer beware. So, you know, it pays to have a little bit of expertise, but really there's no mysteries there. It's not rocket science.
Perfect. I hate it when I use words that I don't even know what they mean, but they
I
have.
know, and you probably do that all the time in the medical industry.
Hey, I know what the heck I'm talking about. Come on now. He lived in Vegas. No.
You know me, baby.
So basically, Clarence, all I did is I asked the same questions that we asked Morton. I'm out of questions because, oh yes, go ahead.
So, are you aware or have knowledge of the New Mexico state statutes of the things that we can and can't buy?
Yeah, I read those prior to drafting up my my recommendations. Yeah, I'm very well aware of them.
So, given that, I watched the presentations.
Right.
You guys were aware, they were very similar, and that's what you're referring to? Is like how they would do things based on the presentations last meeting? Isn't that what those?
No, my basis is just on references.
Oh, just, oh, I see, gotcha.
They do the exact same thing, one's commission and one's upfront, so it's still the money, like it's still
Right, I see.
paid for it
I see.
some way or another, so mine
Right.
is just references.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Does anybody else have any questions? No? Mr. Snyder?
I don't, but I've really actually got a lot of answers out of this.
Well, it did.
I mean, it really kind of cleared it up and made it, I don't know if
Right.
it made it any easier for y'all's choice, but it did clear up some things.
Would you mind if I just said a couple of things?
Oh, please, no, absolutely, yes, that was my next thing, is add whatever you'd like to add, just more took some time as well, so.
Okay, there's just a couple of things that I'd like to bring up. The first one is, we're a large organization. We offer a lot more in the form of electronic oversight and transparency. We've got access to online services, banking, credit cards, all that stuff. So from a treasury management standpoint, I think there's a number of different conveniences that we can bring to the table that you wouldn't get with a smaller firm. But one of the things that I'm going to make 3 points. That was the first one. The second one is your state investment charter essentially allowed for U.S. government securities or FDIC insured securities, which is essentially CDs. So what that does allow for is U.S. government agency paper, which is like Freddie Mac, Fannie Mae. They are, they're government entities. They're not the Treasury. They are government-sponsored entities. And it also doesn't mention anything about maturities. Now, with that said, If we work together and say, for example, I have an accurate schedule of your cash needs and your burn rate, what we can do is I can actually custom build the portfolio so that bonds mature about a month or two before we actually need the cash. Now, what that does is two things. First thing it does, it's called bond immunization, which if we have a bond that, let's say you're paying a contractor or developer in 2 years, instead of buying 6-month bonds, let's buy a bond that matures in 1 year and 11 months. So we get the maximum amount of yield on the bond. And if rates go down in the interim, we've kind of immunized that bond so that we don't lose any additional yield. We've kept it invested for as long as possible. It reduces interest rate risk in the portfolio. If you're working with me, we can be fleet of foot and we can make changes in the portfolio that reflects your capital needs. And we can be very flexible with that. And again, no additional costs, no additional transaction fees or commission. It's just what we do to maintain your highest yield and security in the portfolio. It's also known, and really that's not magic, it's what we call liability-driven investment. And I've got a pretty extensive history of doing that with large pensions. So that's something that we can do. Now, my initial recommendation is for a 12-month treasury ladder. I mean, it's not rocket science. I think it's a good opportunity to kind of get to know each other and work on a relatively simple portfolio. But when you all decide that you've got restricted funds that you might want to invest because you're, I don't know, getting 0.5% in the bank, we can actually invest up to the point of time needed, those funds are needed, so you can get the maximum amount of income on those investments that you wouldn't otherwise get if we were just running a blind pool. So that's one advantage of having a discretionary money manager working with you. Because oftentimes, if there's going to be, changes in the portfolio under the brokerage model, that person's going to have to call somebody on your staff and get permission to do trades and make these changes. Don't have to do that with a discretionary money manager. Now, I know that there's been a question about my experience with school districts. Now, I don't currently manage any, but I will have you know that with my previous employers, I managed the Alaska Student Loan Corporation, which was several hundred million dollars, and we had substantial outlays and inflows coming in all the time with the state of Alaska. We managed that. I was the primary portfolio for that. I managed the Idaho Education Foundation, again, a pretty large investment pool. And I managed San Juan College up in Farmington when I was with US Bank. So although I'm not currently working with any schools, which could be seen as my Achilles heel, understand, we're just talking about a pool of money. And you have an investment policy. It's pretty clear. We've managed to it. I really don't think that there's going to be a problem with you being my sole school that I'm working with. It's not as if I haven't worked with school districts and higher education facilities before. Just thought I'd let you know, though.
So that did bring up a question that I have. So if you have a 2-year note you're managing, like a 2-year treasury, and a year in, we're going, okay, Clarence, that was great, but you're a pizza and we want a hamburger now. Can we get out of that relationship easily, even though we've got a 2-year treasury note out there?
Well, you're not going to get out of the relationship. Essentially, what we do is we swap the bonds. So say, for example, you've got, you've got a portfolio and the average maturity is, 18 months, 24 months. And you say, well, we want to extend that out to about 5 years. Two of the things that we'll do is we can roll maturities, meaning as things mature, We'll just invest them out to, farther down or farther along on the yield curve. Or if it makes sense, we'll trade, we'll sell them and we'll buy something else. You're not gonna, and it's not gonna cost you any commission. So, yeah, it's easily done. And Brian, you're probably aware that on another portfolio, a couple of, I don't know, like about 9 months ago, I said, hey, I think that rates, look attractive and we need to go out on longer paper. Essentially we did that in the portfolio. And I mean, the organization didn't net any fees or expenses for doing that. It's kind of what you pay me for.
Right, right.
And understand, Jim, I'm not making decisions in a vacuum. I mean, if there's a substantial change, I don't necessarily, I'm not going to shoot first and ask questions later. I'm very proactive, and I'm also very proactive with communication. So I think if anything, if there's a fault, I over communicate prior to making moves. But at the same time, I don't think anyone can ever say that they really don't know what I'm doing for them when we work together in that kind of relationship. And look, I know the position that you're in right now. You all are sitting around, you have a big decision to make with a lot of zeros behind it, and you've got a couple of knuckleheads telling you that their way is the best. And at the end of the day, all you want to do is the right thing. And, I get that. But I will tell you that a couple of things that you could be assured of is you do have the fiduciary standard working on your side. You do have a much larger institution with more resources and, dare I say, more transparency. And with that lack of a conflict of interest at the end of the day, I think that's ultimately going to serve you better. So that's it in a nutshell. And yes, by the way, I do go to church.
Do you have children that you have to get ready?
But I'm Southern Baptist, which means I don't make eye contact with people in the liquor store.
Oh, goodness gracious. Oh, my
Good to know.
goodness. All right. Anything else? Any other questions? Clarence, thank you so much. We appreciate you. We appreciate your patience. I apologize about being late in the evening and how this worked out, but we really needed to have a collective discussion as a board and just kind of do that on our own first. You've definitely answered all of our questions. Our intention is to sit and have a further discussion. Unfortunately, we are missing one board member, but I don't know that that's going to inhibit anything this evening. One way or another, you will definitely be hearing back from Mr. Snyder and Nicole. And if you have anything else to add, feel free to please reach out to them and they'll be that great point of contact.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been my pleasure. And hey, thanks for the opportunity. I appreciate it. I know you got a hard decision ahead of you. But I appreciate the opportunity very much. Wish you the best and a good evening. Good night.
Thank you, sir. Thanks, Glenn. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye. Oh, so many big words tonight.
My brain is broken.
That headache before I got here.
So, if we compare them, wow, what do you guys think?
I'm about as confused as I was when we started.
So,
Here's the thing. Everything that we were worried about with Morton, they seem to me, to put to rest those fears. But then when you talk to Clarence over here, he makes it sound like everything Morton said wasn't true.
yeah,
So, like I said, I'm back to square one.
So- There's a couple of things that stood out to me. I don't like the fact that somebody can take our money and invest it and sell us at a different rate, right?
And that's what you asked
Yeah.
many times.
Yes.
They said no, but at the end they said they do take 10 points off the top.
Well,
Point low.
Right,
1%.
right. And then, but I did also ask, are they transparent? Like, do we see these transactions? And he said, no, those work internal.
Yeah.
So which is what as I understood when I read the differences between, I had seen the suitability requirement piece, but I didn't really understand it when I was reading it. So that, I'll be very honest, I don't like that piece. I don't like the fact, and the reason I say that is because I compare it to a car salesman. My brother was director of finance, and that's where they make all their money, and it is in Department of Finance. They up and down sell percentage points. And I get it, they're a business, and that's how you do it, that's how you have to make money. I get that part. I don't like that component personally. And I only have one other set of experience, and it is with UPS. And we truly do get a document very much like this every single month. And it shows every single, much like Nicole does, every penny. Like, we know every penny, what the rates were. It's transparency is 100%. There's never a question versus.
With Martin, I felt like he was basically being a middleman for us.
Well,
Because he said that they were gonna put our money with another manager.
right, they're a broker, so that's exactly it. What they do, what a broker does. So I look, and I apologize, I look at things in simple terms. If I'm trying to find car insurance, you go to selectquote.com or whatever, they're a broker.
Right.
They bring all those people into you, right?
But it sounded like they had no real say-so, or like they were gonna have to call in
Right.
until the decision was made.
You're
And
talking
it
about
felt
Morgan,
like,
you say that?
yeah, Morgan.
Okay.
And with UBS, I felt like he is the end user for.
He is the
all our
discretionary
money, right?
money manager.
Is that how,
Yeah,
I'm understanding that right?
yeah, his title would be discretionary money manager. What that means is, he is the guy that watches our money all day, all the time, and reacts as the market reacts. He is the discretionary money manager. So,
You know, I have now. So we talked about the commission, but he had that flat rate,
right,
20 points. And he said it was yearly, but assessed monthly. Would that, because
so I think they.
every time we do like withdraw, pay a customer, or pay
So
a
he
contractor,
said they do an average
does
of
that
3 months.
2% come out again?
He said
Or
that
just
they do
say
an
that.
average of 3 months of how
Average
much
of 3
money
months.
is in there,
Oh,
what they get there until,
I'm
yeah.
saying, well, we got 50
Of
million,
how
I'm
much
just
they
gonna use some
charge.
random numbers,
Charge off.
50, and then say we gotta pay Lasco 10. We still paying him on that 0.2 for the 50, or on the 40 now that we have for the next 3 months?
Right, that's
Is
what's remaining.
that
It
what's?
would be on the average of
what's remaining.
what's remaining,
Okay,
right?
Yes,
So,
How would that offset itself, you know, it's gotta be able to pay for itself,
right,
otherwise
yeah.
it don't make sense.
And then there's another piece to this, which I didn't realize until, that's why I was writing things down. So,
Yeah, mine's chicken scratch.
right, mine is too, mine too, it's everywhere. So, they will charge, as things are being sold, right, as they mature, as we move them around. Well, whether it's 1 or 1,000 transactions, he's fee-based. So,
I do think that.
right, well,
You're
because.
gonna notice maybe?
Well, because when you, and I'm only basing this off of what I know, is that there could be a lot of transactions, at least with Clarence Woolworth. I mean, full disclosure, obviously, he managed half of our money, and then he did so well, we said, we take all of our money, and he's made us millions. And it's because he He doesn't charge us, he doesn't charge by the transaction, so he's moving money. That's what he does, and that's how he does it, whereas I'm afraid that here, if they're gonna have to move money, how I understand this is it has to be sold. Well, if you're gonna have to sell something to move it, right? Well, that's commission. Then we say, oh, we wanna move it, or, you know, the recommendation, oh, well, now we gotta sell it to move it here, so that's commission. So,
What I noticed too with what Clarence said a while ago, he said that he mentioned like Fannie Mae and Freddie Mae,
Right.
Mac, whatever. And he mentioned like another one of the 5 things we can do. Like, in other words, he's already knows, well, that is a public, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac are publicly owned.
right,
We can invest in them.
well, and
Kind of like what I'm saying is because that's what came from Nicole's question of, do you know what the laws are in New Mexico? Do you even know what we can and can't do?
And he said he just read it to give us a portfolio, so
Yeah.
it's like he just found
Just
out.
now, yeah, but if he's well versed and knows what he's doing, my thing is, within 6 months, he'll know exactly what, I mean, he's very good at picking up on things and doing what, he's gonna follow state law, he even lives in New Mexico.
Well, there's
He's not
definitely,
gonna
Be legally responsible for our money.
there's definitely a difference between a broker, as she said, that farms out money and has other people, has other money managers, and then versus somebody that
Transaction.
lives in it all day long and is
Yeah.
that New York Stock Exchange kind of money guy. I don't know. I mean, I definitely like the facts, which I didn't, I mean, I knew he had done some stuff with, other public monies before, like, I just didn't realize he had done like all, like the big Alaska one and the Idaho one. I think he had told me he had done work in Farmington. He did mention something about
Same
Alaska.
college.
Yeah, he did mention something about Alaska, I just didn't realize it was hundreds of millions of dollars. I'm just trying to look at my notes here. What is FINRA, what's FINRA even stand for? You may know. Financial Industry,
Oh, it's FI.
yeah.
I spell it with an E.
Financial Industry Regulatory Authority. It's so it is even a private corporation that acts as a self-regulatory
It's
organization.
not a federal, so.
So the Financial Regulatory Authority is a private American corporation that acts as a self-regulatory organization that regulates member brokerage firms and exchange markets. So it's definitely not the SEC, which is an investment manager, which falls into the fiduciary, obviously that's the SEC, I mean, that's big.
Well, the information I got today, if I were to have to choose today, I would probably go with Clarence.
Okay.
And I would feel more comfortable with that. And then we would know what we're paying prior to anything.
Right, yeah, I get it.
I feel like we would have a direct contact, or not necessarily us, but we'd have a direct contact every day, not just a couple of emails and wait,
Right.
you know.
Mrs. Arthur, what do you think?
I don't particularly like Clarence.
It's for
Just
Mexicans.
excuse me? Yeah, his nose really bothers me. No, just his demeanor. I don't know, but I feel like,
So he's demeanor out of the two?
yeah, he is.
I'm just kidding.
That's a pretty good one, I like
Yeah,
that.
so
Here's one thing I will say about what he does, is he does this. He's obviously one of those very smart financial guys. And what he does is when, and this is an ongoing joke in Woolworth, he does this when he talks to you. And
So he,
whoever.
that wasn't just a that thing, he's always talking to your forehead.
So the funny part is,
That's
is
insane.
like, when whoever's, like, you know, if I'm sitting like this, Brian, of course, he can't look at Brian when he's
No.
talking. Because Brian's sitting there and Brian's going like this. Looking at it, right? He's always going like this.
Yeah,
And that's what he does. He talks like
Was it a
this.
PowerPoint?
yeah,
He doesn't talk down here. He talks, the whole board would be right here and he talks like this.
yeah, okay.
So that's not him.
Uh-huh.
That's 100% of the presentation. That's just how he does it. Yeah.
I don't know.
Just so you know.
I mean, and I probably didn't really need to throw that out there, but it's just something I want to get off my chest.
Well, no,
I just, like personally, like, I would choose Morton for personality's sake. And their presentation, and they just seem more, like, didn't talk down to us. I mean, we told both of them that we're done. You know what I mean?
Right,
But
yeah.
I feel like Morton kind of like, you know, didn't at least make it known that they were done. But as far as like what Clarence just presented, the actual stuff, to me, that kind of sounds safer and like, I don't know, like there's not so much for, what am I trying to say? I just feel like Clarence's company might take better care of us. And full disclosure, I don't know anything about this. I promise you guys, I was trying to understand, but.
It's not easy. It is not easy.
If it was, and you could do it.
Yeah, it'd be pretty cool. What do you think, Ms. Carter?
That's my take.
The same, from the get-go, the word fiduciary, however you say it, has just stuck in my brain and I can't let it go. Not with somebody else's money.
But
And I wasn't convinced enough with their argument and their
of the
suitability requirement, just
Yeah.
coming in
Finding out
2020.
federal isn't federal.
Yeah,
I thought it was
I
a
thought it was
federal
federal something
institution.
too,
Yeah.
it's a private organization.
Yeah.
You know, the nice, when I say the nice part, of course, we don't, we're not tied in to contract. So that's always good. And the only reason I know that is because again, full disclosure, my only interaction with stuff like this is through Woolworth, and the hospital district, although I'm not on that board. But we were, I do know that if and when there was ever changes decided to be made, it was as simple as a board meeting.
What do they invest in? Do they have the same rules at the hospital that we
We
do?
say, oh yeah, public money, same thing.
Okay, so what do they do?
They use, Wells Fargo.
Cash sweep, like what we're.
No, I don't know why they were talked out of it. I don't know, what are you doing? We have, I don't know.
Oh, okay.
They weren't doing something, those at least every time I have to listen to it, so they're not, right, they're just not, and that being said, I think there's a lot of room for improvement there, but I do know that there and Wolf Woolworth, when there are decisions to be, if something happens, it's like, well, we're gonna take half our money over here, or we're gonna take it all and go back over here. It wasn't it's not a huge process. It is a process, but it's not like we're in contract and we have to stick with anybody, right?
It can be changed,
Right.
With the customer.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there any reason that, we need to wait for Mr. Cervantes? I don't know where we're at with, I know he's out for his knee, or that's what he told me today, coming back from Lubbock. When I did ask him what was going on, but what time he's back, he's never responded, so we have an option. We can absolutely turn this into a motion, between Morton and UBS. If we want to table and have a full board discussion, we can do that. Which would kind of lead us back to where we are right now and kind of what we just went through.
Maybe another month of what we're.
Right, yeah,
I'm
and
not
I.
emotionally prepared to go through this.
Not
I was gonna say, this is
is a lot. So this is, okay, this is a lot. This is, but it's literally what our, other than hiring him, it's our main job, you know?
Yeah.
So I really
It's a lot of
appreciate it.
money.
It is, and
I feel
I,
like we should have taken a class before we got elected.
right? But I do appreciate the fact that you guys are rolling out a special meeting just for this. Because I think we owe that to everybody, Mr. Snyder, Nicole.
I'm just glad I got a better understanding of it all, because I thought it was gonna be like wide spectrum of
Right,
investing,
right,
you know, like
right.
what, basically what we can do with our money any day.
It's
And my
very.
experience has not ever been great.
You're
You
right.
know, I've tried doing an investment, and I used Wells Fargo investment actually, and they lost a lot of my money almost overnight,
Right.
you know, so it was, I was like, yeah, I'm not doing that no more.
Yeah, right.
You know,
There's a reason I'm not good at that.
I was like, that's what I saw or heard in my head, seen when I heard all this going on in the phone.
Right. Well, and, you know, it sounds like,
And they washed it off as, oh, it happens.
yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was,
Right.
yeah, for me, it was,
Right. And here's what I can tell you that I know for certain is if it was through Wells Fargo, they're a brokerage account.
yes.
They're a brokerage account. And that's the kind of discussion I've had with our board over there. And the difference, because they had to wash off, I'm sorry. That being said, then, we do have two things up, two companies, talk to, unless there's any interest in waiting for Mr. Cervantes or speaking with a third company, which we can always do. It's up to the pleasure of the board to make it, if somebody's interested in making a motion for a company, for us to move our investments into, we have a vote for it.
I'll make that motion, that we go with UPS. We listened to both sides twice, we got presentations from both of them. No information really changed, we just got more. I'm still leaning that way.
I'll make it, I'll second.
Okay, all in favor for UBS? All right, good. All right, so that's what we'll do, we'll go with that. Now, as far as how that works, Mr. Snyder and Nicole get a hold of, Clarence and UBS, and, we'll start that process, we'll start that, and then,
And then we do have bonding attorneys,
right,
auditors,
we have RBC
things
and
that we
right.
can, people that we can call just to keep us.
Well, I really
To
don't-
check,
yeah,
and if Clarence says this, we just check.
absolutely, I don't think this should ever, I don't think this, one thing I think, well, it's been very evident by our audits that the team that we have, you and Nicole, that it's top notch, right? So I don't know that any of that needs to change, because there's a reason that we don't have any audit findings.
Just ask you something real quick.
Yeah,
Did you vote on this?
I did,
You did, okay.
yeah, I just,
Cause I remember before you
Yeah.
said you might not, so I
well,
just wanted to make sure
so
before I wrote it down
I'm
that
not,
you did.
definitely not gonna make a motion, but I will be the fourth
Okay.
vote. I don't necessarily have to rescind, because I don't have anything, I have no personal involvement, I'm just on another trust.
Yeah.
So.
Just for posterity.
No, I got you, right, yeah. That being said, I don't think that any of our daily practices should really end, that's because all those checks and balances that you guys do all the time, I think that's huge. Hopefully this will make your job easier, and if it doesn't, please let us know.
Well, I will let you know right now, is that y'all speak so highly of all the books and everything that I do, but yet you don't take into account of my opinion on the decision of where to invest.
So do you,
So
are
out
you
of
an
the
invest, but are
20
you?
plus years in the school system, and not one school has had a problem or anything
So,
different,
I
so that's why
I
I'm
don't
just.
know that we're not questioning your
No, I didn't
ability
say
to
it,
do
no,
the
I
job.
question, like, you didn't even ask, or, you know,
Well, no, we
if I'm
did.
the one that takes,
We
you
did,
know,
so.
care of all the books and
So
everything,
let's,
it's
let
just-
me answer that very directly, because for, not last meeting, but for 2 meetings before that, you made it clear that you liked Morton.
Yes.
So much so that you really gave them proprietary information without telling us. That's
What
on,
kind of
hold on,
information
that
are you talking about?
they have our numbers. That's proprietary, those are
Your
our.
numbers for what? If
Well-
all our finances are public.
I
They're posted
understand, but we
everywhere.
have to do it fairly. If we
And you're
provide
gonna
them.
base your opinion or
So-
your decision fairly when you're talking about investments that you have with him already, so.
Here's what we're going with. And now I'll direct the rest of it to Mr. Snyder, because really this should be a Mr. Snyder discussion. But I will say that outside of everybody in this room, none of us have investment background, none of us. You've done books, you've been an accountant, you've done our financial stuff other places for years. You're not an investment banker. I'm not an investment banker. Mrs. Crawford runs a very large business. She's not an investment banker. None of us are. That's what we're talking about. We're not talking about how to create our budget. We're not talking about salaries. We're not talking about payroll. We're not talking about the line items and budget items and bars. We're not talking about any of that. We're talking about investing millions of dollars.
Exactly.
Do you have, and you have that background? You're
No,
right.
I
None
agree
of us-
with you, I said exactly, I totally agree
Right,
with
so
you.
that's
But
what,
like, it's just, this
decision-
experience doesn't matter, though,
Well,
just because you guys have experience with him on a different board, and so you're geared that way, because you know how he works, but
I'm the only
then
person with
like, it
experience
just.
here. I'm the only person with that experience. And I
Well, Mr.
literally,
Snyder's too.
he doesn't have a role.
No, I understand that, but I'm not gonna go into other things, I'm not gonna,
So
I'm just not.
ultimately, you can have that discussion with Mr. Snyder, but the board made a decision based on the 3 people that don't have any business dealings.
We will make it work. So again, that's.
But that is a board decision. I mean, we don't, that's just, that's up
Well,
to
you
the
asked if
farm.
there was something to be said, and so I just expressed my opinion.
Perfect, thank you. Anything else? No? So, perfect, yeah, I don't know what that next step looks like. I guess you guys will reach out to him and just kind of sort it out. And
And I think it's good now because it's April 1st, so if
Right.
she wants to build something into the budget, that's where.
for July 1, right? Perfect.
So this doesn't start till July 1?
I don't know, that'll be up to them. I have no idea what the
Oh,
start date
talking about
will be.
building and.
Yeah, so
Okay.
our next fiscal year
Sorry,
is
okay.
July 1, so.
What we need to do is connect with Clarence and then connect with our attorney if we have any questions on it. With the
Right.
bonding attorney, our regular attorney. RBC, Art Melindres, they will know what we can.
Right, well, those are conversations we have with them regularly anyways. And then, yeah, Mr. Snyder, if you'll reach out to Morgan as well. So thank you very much for everything you've done, and we really appreciate their time. Cool. Anything else? No, all right, need a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Second?
All in favor? Thank you. Appreciate it.
2-hour meeting.
I know,
Well.
I know,
Oh,
2.5, I tried.
Please.
Almost a minute, I think.
Yeah.
You kind of go walk around the school.
But we did get over
We
it.
did. That was nice.
I was either in the back or.
Mr. Snyder, you have a minute?
I'll see y'all.
Thank you, guys.
Have a good evening.
If you guys are willing to hang out for a second.
See you guys.
See you, bud.
Bye.
I'll see you.
All right.
Yeah.
Good to see you.
Thank you. Thanks for the tour.
Yes, thanks, guys.
Thanks, Coach.
What's that? Oh, yeah, thank you.
What?
I'm thinking Albuquerque in my head.